Hello, this is Lisa Lee, and welcome to this week's enrichment reading. We are working with some guides that we don't normally work with, but they're still family. It's almost like there seems to be something going on out there in the other realms, and we'll probably get a little bit of what that means. But what we're looking at today is, we've been talking about the change that's coming, the change that's going to change you, the change that's coming toward you. Like, we've been getting a lot of this stuff about moving around, and there's a lot of moving. And for like individuals, like self included, there's a lot going on with that. And I'm also seeing that like you can't really picture your future too easily because there's so many changes in the landscape of what it is to even be a creating human in the world, and what it means to even like operate in a economy is like as a within, so without, as above, so below. Every war that you're seeing, all of the instability that you're seeing, there's a mirror of that on the other side in terms of power structures and who holds power and who doesn't hold power. So when we see a changing of the worldview, what we're talking about is the gods are changing. Our rulership and the values that they bring are changing. And so there's a secular way of looking at this, which is, my guides are saying stay in the crown. Okay. There's a secular way of looking at it, which is just that we can see that in our world, things are changing so much. Like, where are you going to be in 10 years? Where's anyone going to be in 10 years? And so I think we're going to think about that. Our guys are going to give us a little bit of that picture, but they're also going to talk about what this transformation, what this transition is all about for us. So we are in transition. We are I'm seeing butterflies. We are going through rapidly, I'm hearing these major changes. Queen of Wands. Wow, that's a huge bunch. Lovers. All right. And I usually don't do reversals, but they're here, so I'm going to make a note of them. I'm gonna, it's different guides that I'm not used to talking to 100%. Again, like, came into the office today and discovered that our guides are doing something. That's what they told me. Like, they're busy, like they're actively at work. There's a strategy at play, and planning. And so we're with like the guides that are sort of adjacent, our normal guides, and so it's a little bit different to communicate with them. But this planning our way forward, that's what we're talking about with the Two of Wands. That's, that's the archetypal meaning of the Two of Wands, looking out, planning, figuring out how you're going to move forward. The Queen of Swords is about like thinking this through. I moved this, because again, like there's something here. But with the Lovers card in reverse and the Queen of Pentacles, I would call it a decoupling. And what I mean by that is it does feel like there's sort of like a divorce going on. Let me get some more information. When a worldview shifts, okay, I'm being shown planets. Okay, Capricorn is, we're leaving Capricorn behind with Pluto, I think it is, and we're moving into Aquarius. And so this is a big deal. This is basically the spiritual infrastructure moving within and around us. Like, everything's kind of seismic shifting. And so with this Lovers in reverse, there is a way in which you were formed and informed by an old structure, and we've been working with this for a long time. But there is this final moment, we're in the moment of that great divorce. That Queen of Pentacles, that's a card of like, in this moment, it's saying like wife, But again, I don't think that this is like a tangible thing. I think that the divorce is between you and the old God, because the new gods are coming in, and we've been in this transition. We've been doing this work. We've been making these relational changes, and we've been actively actually participating in the changing of the gods. But what it means in this last couple of weeks, I think until like November 17th, there's a planetary shift here. What it means for us to let go of that old God, what closing out that book is, what closing out those chapters are for each and every one of us. It's going to be a little bit different, but ultimately it's an uncoupling. And I'll get more cards on that to get a little bit clearer. But how you would feel this in your life is along the lines of, and I'm hearing it's different for everybody, but you are like, it's like there's a divorce between you and the former life that you had and the former worldview that you held. And it's actually like acting like a lover's, like a divorce. It's a little bit rage inducing sometimes. There's a little bit like of a shortness of fuses. There's a little bit of like anguish and fear. There's also like freedom and liberation, and feel like very big highs and lows. And with the Queen of Wands and that Knight of Cups, Yeah. Okay. So in the absence of where you would formally place what you value, like this is going to leave an absence. And so this great divorce with our former value system, our former gods, and their influence, is leaving a kind of a question mark, a void a little bit. And with this Knight of Swords and this unbalanced feeling, like taking action here, there is a wobbly, there's that feeling like right before you're gonna cry from frustration. I'm feeling like that. I touched this and it kind of feels like that. So let's keep moving. Let's see what we've got here. Something's flipped. The fault line, yes. The shadow, that makes sense. We're at the breaking point and the forest. And this is exactly what this means right here. Just what I said. So we're at this breaking point, things are changing, we're breaking through. Like we can't really see farther than the headlights show us and driving through the dark road. We're not really able to see beyond that. And that's what this instability, that instability kind of feels like. And so that's where our guides are sort of opening us up with the crone here. The presence of the old gods is with us very powerfully. And they just feel different. The old gods just feel different. And so the shifting of the worldview, the downing of like the imperialistic, hierarchical, religious structures that operated, to like bring us into the world that we're in right now. Everything that sort of was our operating system up until this point. They are being replaced. And they are being replaced by these old gods, but they're old gods who have been made new by a very long period of like our evolution. And so it does feel kind of weird working with them, like not gonna lie. Like I personally like had a certain way in which I like to kind of work, and now I'm just like, this is feeling raw, feeling very, very raw. So let's see what they're wanting to tell us about this. We are in a planning place, but it's very strange to plan without a sense of where we're going. And I think that that's kind of what we're feeling in like that unmoored space somewhat. There's a gift in this though. Your guides are saying that there's such a gift in this transformation. Like you're having an internal transformation. Six of Swords moving. The moving thing is for real. And the Knight of Wands, again, this is going to be quick. Let's take a look. The Teacher, nice, and the King of Wands. So the old worldview is a relationship, whether we like it or not. When I say worldview, I mean like the God, like that worldview is a God. And that worldview has influence like a god, because it is, And so that King of Wands is a war god, and basically what we're moving away from, even though we're experiencing all these wars. Again, that's a spiritual thing. That's been a spiritual realm thing. We are dealing with the last of the war gods' rule. And what that means for us individually, with the Six of Swords, this Knight of Wands, this Girl of Swords, and the Teacher, is that we are, again, like being strategically moved. Now, whether you're being physically moved from one place or another, or whether you're being moved like at a seismic shift level on the inside, this is going to be such a rapid changes, where you're going to get to Monday, and on Monday you're going to be one person, and by the time you get to Sunday you're going to be a different person, and then the next Monday you're a new person, and then Sunday you're a different person. This has already started already, but now it's this is moving very quickly, because we're like I'm seeing like magnetic pull. We're being pulled into the future, and that is making all of these changes faster and faster and faster. So we're being pulled toward the highest version of ourselves at a rate that is actually kind of disorienting. So one of the first things we're being told is like, don't worry about the weirdness. Don't worry about like I'm that undercooked in the middle kind of you're being moved. You are physically being picked up and moved. and that growth is the movement that I'm talking about. And there are people who are physically picked up and moved, but there's this growth that's happening that is very, very fast. It's not really initiated by you. It's not authored by you. You're participating in it, but you're being like hurried along. It's like a parent who's like got their kid and they're like, come on, let's run. We got to get out of the rain. Like that kind of a pace. With that Knight of Wands there. Yeah, let's see. It's been a really long road. And these cards are, everything's sort of upside down today, which is, it feels like an upside down pineapple cake. Don't worry, let's get lost together. And so like one of the first things that your guys want to sort of bring through is we're moving out of the past, and our relationship with the past is getting very, very weird, because our relationship with who we've become is such a different person than the person who occupied our past, that every time we look back, it's just bizarre, but we can't look forward either. And so one of the things our guides are saying is like, yes, it feels topsy-turvy. Yes, it is topsy-turvy. You're moving. Whether you realize it or not, like the dimension that you are occupying is moving from one like force field of influence into another. And this is happening at a level that is making it very weird to sort of relate to even yourself as a person, or to relate to others, or relate to the world. And so on the long, long way, there is not any that could be so easy all along the way. Our guides are saying this can be easy if we can feel at peace and in a space of trust about what's transpiring. There are things that are not conceived of or seen, or even like you where you're like looking and you're like, I don't see where I'm going, I don't see what I'm doing, I'm kind of seeing, but I still don't. That's, our guides are saying that's on purpose. There's a reason why you're not getting the full picture. You, very particularly this collective, is being repositioned and positioned, you know, with new energies around what their calling actually, their purpose actually is. When the door of dreams opens, I don't hesitate to start their journey. So especially with this Knight of Wands here, like the decoupling, it's almost like a divorce from the former self, the divorce from the former life. The past is no longer even like tangibly applicable to like who you are or what you want to be. And so this door that is opening is very quickly happening. We're very quickly moving into a different experience of like the ground of our being. The ground of your being is going to be that experience of like God almost, you know, divine. But when we have the worldview changing, we have a changing of the gods and guides, even to a certain extent, in relationship to that. And so our guides kind of want to give us a little bit of encouragement about feeling okay with the topsy-turvy way that things are feeling right now, because that there's a reason. Being okay with not really being able to see where you're going all the way, because there is a reason. Part of it is that your intuition is going to need to be sharpened, and it's being sharpened against like, you know, almost like knocking on the door, like, what am I seeing? Where am I going? What am I seeing? Where am I going? It's hundreds of years of repressed evolution trying to be like sped up into this it's like a pinpoint of transformation between these two poles. And so let dreams take you away. Some of you have been dreaming crazy, have been in crazy town dreams. And that's again, like there's so much happening and you can kind of feel it. If you feel a little shaky, that's what it is. So our guides first want to bring us into, they want to calm us down, because the energy being what it is, and there's something about like this rapid cycling of growth, has a lot of us just like unhinged, just like slightly unhinged. So let's take a look at what this might mean in terms of the journey that we're about to take, because we're about to step into the shadow, into the dark forest, because of this fault line, because of the crack. And I'm being shown the past, the future, and this crack is right where we are. So it's looking pretty dark right here. And our guides are saying you've got so much grace that, again, there are these weird highs and lows as energy kind of comes rolling through, as new guides are like changing, as there's like, even like, you know, to the extent that a lot of times we're walking through a battlefield that we do not experience like as anything other than like misplaced anxiety or like a bizarre whiff of like grief, you know. So it's like we're experiencing so much of what's happening on the other side and without any sight whatsoever. And so to understand that like we are in this space in the dark, and our guides are saying, okay, let's walk together. Now let's go on this journey. Let's start from this space in the dark. And so I'm being told to move the cards out of the way, because we're going to talk about like entering into the dark. In Create Space, we were talking a little bit about what it means to get comfortable with death and shadow and change. And this is sort of along those lines slightly. And with the crone there being usually the energy of Hecate, she has the torches and she leads us through the underworld. And so this change here, this transformation with this former god of war is underway. All right, so what they want to do, let me see which deck they're kind of showing me to get a little bit organized. I am disoriented with the Hanged One. Yep. I am disoriented with our new guides a little bit. Again, this is a shift in perspective that we can't see like what that means. So the fault line, the shadow, and the forest. Time is behaving really weird. Our guides are showing me, like, you know, that that the atoms, you know, shake, you know, and everything vibrates, nothing is still. And when you try to make things still, it causes anxiety. But they're showing me that, like, everything is shaking. Everything, like, there's a way in which everything is shaking. So first I want to take a look at this fault line, and I want to see what our guides want to tell us about where they see us right now. Like, what do they see? I want them to mirror us a little bit in terms of, like, they're explaining what's going on their end of things, but like trust and nature, trust nature, trust the mother. There is an awakening that we are undergoing here in this process. And so I want them to talk a little bit about us. I want to hear a little bit about how they're feeling. Where are we going? Right here. How they're feeling, how they're thinking, what they're seeing when they see us. I hear the word belly. So that belly is, like, significant. There's something about a belly for somebody. Well, they want you to know that that you are they need you to know something, and the guides that are here want you to know something, because you probably feel some sense of this, but there is this feeling of having to always fight an oppositional force in one way or another. And that's, again, we're seeing this changing of the guards, and there is a tension. There is almost like a divorce kind of quality with it. But I'm being told that, like, that you feel like you're surrounded but alone, and they're saying, like, you are very, like, there's a reason why we're making ourselves, like, so known. So, like, what you feel in the way of opposition is almost to highlight how much they are surrounding you and with you. You are working energetically to clear out the old, and you are actually, you know, cutting these ties, you know, to the past and to the past version of yourself. And they want you to see that they first and foremost see your beauty in this as being kind of extraordinary, because they're showing me somebody who's tired, and they're saying, like, oh no, yes, you're tired. You're part of this fight, whether you realize it or not. When you go to sleep at night, you're not sleeping. You're probably waking up as tired as you went to bed the night before. Stop and take in the view. Take stock of the treasures you've earned. You know, yes, this feels scary. Yes, this feels a little bit very unmoored. They're astounded by the grace with which you're handling these changes. They're astounded by the way in which, like, in that other world, in that sleep world, you are doing this hard work and participating in this change, like, as an agent of change in this change. And they want you to they're, like, mad almost. They're like, can you just, like, stop for a minute and take in some of these victories? Because it does feel like you're walking through a battering ram, like, of, like, a life, like you're, you know, walking, and every time you stand up, it's something else, you know. But there's this way in which, with each one of those, every time you overcome something, every time you move into something with power, and bring that divinity in and change and grow and expand, you have traveled huge distances from where you started. Massive ground has been covered, and whether you see your progress or not, they see your progress, and they see your progress. They said there was a point where we thought that you were going to stay buried alive. There was a point that we thought that you were going to be overcome, and you are like the unsinkable Molly Brown. I don't know who that is, but it's like, I'm hearing that, like, no matter how many times the opposition tried to sink you, you weren't going to sink. And so, eyes on the prize, trust the guidance of your North Star. Like, this is trust coming out twice. I saw a deer yesterday in my, like, back alley where I walk my dog. I took my dog out And I saw this just deer, this little, like it was a young deer, just kind of walked right in front of both of us and, you know, kept on walking. And so later I immediately knew that that was the energies of some of the guides that I've worked with that are from here, that are native to this land. Like I immediately knew that they were saying like trust, peace. And this is the message we're getting. Yeah, it looks really dark right here. Shadow. Like we're, you know, what does it mean to be walking through this from this side to this side means walking through the shadow. From going from the past, the old worldview, old gods, into the new worldview, the new gods. Like we have to pass through this shadow. We have to walk through this forest. So we're being told to look up, and I'll explain that in just a second. I'm gonna get some cards here. Yep, there's a fight. 5 of Swords. Feel it? I feel it. I see it. I participate. We're in it. We're in it for sure. Things are going to look very, very different. Yeah, death and the sun. You know, death and the sun. This is a massive transformation. And that is what we're looking at. And for the 4 of Wands, it's kind of speaking of this completion. And so when one time I was on a night hike, and it was like a serious night hike. This was like pitch dark to the extent that like it was probably dangerous, you know. And it was, I was with a group of teenagers. I was a teenager myself, and we were dropped off in the middle of like nowhere, in the middle of a forest. And the first thing that the guys that we were with told us was, they said, "Give us your flashlights." And so we handed them our flashlights, and then they said, "All right, look up." And we looked up, and they showed us that there's a break in the trees, and we saw the break in the trees. They said, "That's your path." And we said, "Okay." And they said, "We'll see you on the other side." And then that whole night, we hiked the whole night, and like through the deepest, darkest forest. And the only way for us to know that we were stepping on the path was to not look at our feet, because we couldn't even see our feet, was to look up and see that break in the path. And so Spirit is saying, this is the moment we're in. This is the experience that we're having. You are walking through, you are walking from this old into this new, and it is in shadow. And the only way that you're able to see that you're on the right path is connecting with divine guidance. And so that is where we are. And so when we talk about what it means to be in this space of this conflict and of this, and I'm hearing triumph, you know, and that death and that transformation, that Sun card, and that 4 of Wands, again, that's completion and that celebration in that completion. Eyes on the prize. Keep looking up. So trust means that it's hard to, you know, when we're trying to see our way forward, and we're trying to see our place in our way forward. Our place in the world and our position in the world and what we're being called to, and it doesn't exist yet. There's no version of it that has ever been, you know, like when it's of the realm of the mystery of what could be, but we don't know. That's super frustrating. But our guides are basically saying that this is why we need to trust. This is the reason why we're called to trust. There's nothing that you can do to figure it out on your own. You can think about it and plan and try, you know, and take this road and take that road. There's literally not a single thing that you personally can do to see your way any clearer. You do have to be guided. You do have to be looking up at that guidance and moving down that path. And that path and that guidance is still, you know, a clear path is not a break in the tree lines. You know, a clear path is when you can see, you know, the path itself. And so our guys are basically saying that, like, they want you to revel in the joy. They almost want you to have like a joyful experience of it, to the extent that you can with this 9 of Swords. So this 9 of Swords speaks about, like, there's some shadow. Yeah, the 9 of Swords and that King of Wands with this 9 of Coins. There's something significant, very significant here about your independence, and you being comfortable with your independence. The 9 of Swords is this nightmare with this war god, you know, and this 5 of Swords is this conflict that is in your face in one way or another. Let me get some more on that, because this is right underneath the shadow. Underneath the shadow, we have the King of Wands, the war god. We have the 9 of Swords, nightmares and torture. You know, that's what that is. And that 5 of Swords is again, this conflict. And so there are 2 very distinct timelines in front of us, given, you know, the way that the world is going in the battles and the, you know, in the fields. And it is true that if the United States chooses yeah, this is, I don't even want to look. Don't even show me. Show me. No, don't show me. Our guys are saying, just calm down. They were showing me a glimpse of something and I was like, please, please no. But you know, the fact of the matter is the landscape of the world, we can expect the forms to change, the shapes to change on the map. I don't really know what that means exactly, but there's part of it can be global warming, but part of it is they're saying no, like expect borders to shift. There is a trajectory with the United States where the world deems us a danger to ourselves and others, and action is taken. And there's another trajectory wherein we have a rapid development. And so these two things are almost like worlds apart from each other, but they lead almost to the same outcome of a completely different experience of like our place in the world. And I know that not all of us are from the United States, but there does seem to be, from a spiritual perspective and the way that things are drawn out and the power structures as they are, kind of like a domino thing, and like there's a lot that goes on. The government that is this government is not the government for this people's, it's the government for another infrastructure. And so that falls, when we're seeing it fall, in either a way that looks like, you know, we come to our senses, you know, or a way that looks like we are brought to our senses. And so that's a very like global situation that we're looking at right now. You know, on a personal level, on a spiritual level, we are also like, you know, having, you know, our guys are saying like it is kind of an awful process. That's true. We are also having this experience of feeling just very almost unsafe, but also powerful. You know, like there's such a strange, like, you know, mixed emotion here. So I want to know what our guides want to say about this. That Nine of Coins says like you're being positioned for personal power. You need to be independent. There's something so crucial about that independence. What do you mean by that independence? Or you're being forced to be independent or something. Let me take a look at that. It's not totally clear. Although our guys are saying like trust, peace. You know, some of the stuff that they're showing me, I'm like, no, I don't like it. Ian, yep, receive. Be poised to receive. This is them being like, you're definitely having a fear reaction. I am having a fear reaction. Deep knowing, Indian. And the fork in the road. You know, as a psychic, and between worlds, we know it. As a psychic, I will tell you, sometimes not sometimes, a lot of times I will see something and it just horrifies me. And so, you know, there is this way in which I thought we were farther away from this. I've been seeing this for a long time. I see I see a bunch of stuff. I've been seeing this for a long time. I knew that we were going to have this experience. Like I knew we were going to step into this. I thought we were had a little bit more distance from this upheaval. We're feeling it on an emotional level first. We can have a deep knowing and know that we will receive and know that we are actively being taken care of. Like this Nine of Pentacles is like you are going to be positioned absolutely, you know, in a place where, and holding this peace and holding this strength. And it's almost like on an emotional, physical level, we have the instability in our bodies. We're feeling the instability in our bodies before it hits the world. And that happens to all people who, like all of this, everybody in this collective is a high priest, high priestess from antiquity. Because when I go into meditation, I like see you from the different temples that I've known you in. And so, we always feel the tsunami wave always hits our energy first. We feel the effects of it. We feel what it's doing. We feel where it's going. There's nothing in our view that is going to like say like what that is exactly. It's always going to come later, but it's the nature of what you are is to be prepared for others. And so that's kind of what that Nine of Coins is, to be prepared for others. And so this deep knowing is like you will have the knowing that you need at every moment. You will be able to receive this knowing that is going to show you as you look up at that tree. There's a break in the trees at your path. As you're looking at your path, that's your guidance. Like you will be guided from above. You'll be able to move down this path safely. You will be able to move down this path with grace, and this transformation is for you and you're ahead of it. And so whenever we're ahead of a transformation, we know that we are established and useful in that situation, which means that you're not going to get hit with the instability itself somewhat already, but like not quite in the way that like your guides are allowing you to again experience it. But there's an encasement around you. There is a grace around you where you're in the observer position. this is and again, I see you rapidly in growth cycles. And so this fork in the road is this moment in time where we are looking at, is this going to be an easy transition of power, or is this going to be a very difficult transition of power? We don't know. And so I think our guys are coming in to say, you know, it's actually not set in stone. It's a transition of power. It's happening. That's inevitable. But how this is going to go, it calls us to trust, to know that that deep knowing will be received at the appropriate time, and it will guide our path between these two worlds. And you have a 9 of Coins position in the new worldview, in the new world of values. Like that is what you are created for in one way or another. So the awakening that was started is actually like, it's the sun is rising. I'm hearing with the sun here. Clarity is coming in. Keep your, like, so your guides are saying, like, with this process, walking through this fault line, walking through from one side to the other, they want you to keep your head. Because it'll be, your guys are showing me there are going to be these moments of like intense confidence, intense enlightenment, intense awakening. And then there are these minutes where you can't find the keys and you're going to cry everywhere. And it's like, and this is, I'm seeing this happening like with like, you know, your like your power comes in like a flood, you know, you feel it, you're enlightened, you see things. And then as it washes out again, you like crumble, and you know what I mean? Like, but this is exactly what's supposed to be going on. You know, again, like we're meant to be hit by like the debris of the change before, so that we can get acclimated to that change, so that when it gets there for everybody else, we're positioned for it. Now, does that mean that we're all a group of like helping, you know, and helping, you know, professions or whatnot? I don't know. I don't think so. It's 9 of Pentacles. It's being established, you know, within, like, as yourself. Yeah, can I see that? Well, yeah, let's just see what they want to say with these cards first. You see clearly now. Act as if, and a rebirth is assured. With the bottom of the deck is time for a beginner's mind. So let's step into that beginner's mind, you know. So this transformation, this death and rebirth, this rebirth that is assured, this act as if, this is exactly, this Queen of Swords with the Death card here is the same as act as if a rebirth is assured. See that there is a future for you. See that that future for you is bright, and that future for you is established, and that future for you, you've been created for it, because you haven't really been given the opportunity to fully live. I'm seeing this is a collective that has been prepared for, like, in preparation for, and that preparation has been I would say the worst. You know what I mean? Like, just the worst. But this, you see clearly now, is that Sun card. So the sight that is coming, the power that is coming, it's here. It's already starting to develop. It's already percolating. And I'm trying to slow down so that I can, like, this is just hard energy to, it's not that it's like hard energy. It's different energy. So alchemically, I'm kind of jumpy with it. So our guys are saying that to have a beginner's mind, let's do that. Let's look at what it means for us to have a beginner's mind here. Because well, you know, before we look at what it means to have a beginner's mind, which I'm going to put right here, I want to see what we're expected to do during the course of this transition that's happening energetically. Like, is there something that we need to be participating to do something? Because I almost feel like we are in a hanged man position, kind of waiting out the storm a little bit. I don't know if it's our decisions that, you know, that we need to be paying attention to at the fork in this road, or if we are just like at a fork in the road globally, spiritually, in the realm. The fork in the road in the realm. This is a terrible, like, ordeal, actually, this moment in time. Our guys are like, it's not that bad. They're saying it's always worse than anyone ever thought it would be, and easier than anyone could have ever conceived it would be at the same exact time, when it comes to this sort of stuff. Yeah, the sacrifice is undergone. So this sacrifice that has to be made, because I felt this like a divorce. Yeah, fearless in conflict. Not my favorite. Let's see. That wild nature keeps on coming up. So taking things a little bit lighter because you are surrounded by the right relations. You have the right spirit guides around you right now. The changing of the guides and guard for you, it's not, first of all, it's not much of a change. You know, for some of you, it's actually a big change, but others, it's like, you're still going to have the people that guide you in those closest relationships to you, but the atmosphere around what you are and what your purpose is and how useful you are, the value system that is now placed upon your head in terms of the guidance that's around you, you're getting specialized guides that are specialized in what you're supposed to do. And so you are now surrounded by the energies that are meant for you in terms of your growth and your transformation. And I hear like your rapid takeoff. And they want you to understand that this is like to be happy. Be happy that you're going to get freed. Not only are you going to be free, but there's going to be this position that is like for you with that 9 of coins. We can't see it just this moment. Like everything is shaken down. But the right relations, the right guides, the right influences, the right hearing, like they hold power. Energies are taking charge. They're taking control. They're taking the space, and these are our ascended ancestors for sure. But they're the ascended energies that we want to be happy that we have with us. And so the sacrifice, the wild nature, the fearless in conflict, and the call to laughter are saying that yes, you're told with that Queen of Swords also to be fearless about what's going on. You're going to see a lot of upheaval, and you're going to wonder like, oh my gosh, look at this change. Like, do I need to be terrified? Is everything going to be like hot? And your guides are saying like, nope. Do not be afraid in that way. There is a sacrifice though that is happening here, and I kind of want to get. Let me just feel this with my hand. I want to look at these so particularly. Let me pull these down. And I'm going to put these other ones away. I want to dig in. So yeah, we are between worlds. Feeling it. Feeling it. It's not my favorite. I really like to be settled. So let's just take this and here. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at this. Yeah, that tower, it's fallen. The tower is falling. And your guide, I heard someone's guide said, as we speak. The tower is falling as we speak. So let's talk about what this sacrifice, this wild nature, and this fearless in conflict is all about. And the way that I'm kind of laying it here, it's almost like where we were, like this is the bridge between these two positions. All right, let's learn it. Let's learn it. Let's find out. Let's find out what this means. Okay. I am really scattered with this new energy. I kind of feel like I'm so used to a different alchemical arrangement that it's having an effect. Okay, so I want to see what this wild nature is. And I'm being told not to use this deck, okay? To use this deck. I'm hearing wild nature. There are energies that are leaving you that you feel emotionally attached to. The nature of this change is that there will be sacrifice, there will be loss at an energetic level. And it feels kind of like a divorce kind of a feeling, I'll be honest with you. Trust, though. Trust is coming up so incredibly powerful. I think this entire reading, I think this is about trust. It's like the trustful King of Pentacles is this wild nature, and the World card, right? With the Knight of Swords, and so the atmosphere, the world that we're in, like how things are going to be and look, what we can expect is that it's going to be like encountering the nature, like very specifically encountering like nature's energy coming up against this tyranny of the old guard. The new chapter here with this King of Pentacles is like this is a new established king, and so there is part of what the beginner's mind is all about, and what our guides want us to do, is to allow ourselves to trust heavily in our guidance, because a call to our wild elements that we've been taught to suppress, a call to that wild sort of like jungle kind of an energy, like we're being called into like an acceptance that the storms are going to be the storms, that the kingdom falling and the kingdom rising is going to be the kingdom falling and the kingdom rising, that new world necessitates this particular untamed space. So part of the trust that we're kind of called to step into is to look at this untamed landscape and say, okay, this is what's going on. I am protected. I'm in this Nine of Pentacles position in terms of what is being established in me, for me, through me, that you can't see what it looks like. You know what I mean? Like we're only kind of looking up at that crack in the trees and sort of moving towards another side of this with this fault line. And to have laughter, to be lighthearted about what's going on, is going to be an enormous energetic, that's almost like a call to a certain kind of warrior stance, is to sort of be able to look at this and say, yes, this change is necessary, this change is happening. Is it going to happen the easy way? We hope so. Is it going to happen the hard way? It might. But the change itself is what we want. And so how we get there, it's not saying that, it's irrelevant, but that Knight of Swords, like how that action is taken against the forces of the kingdom of earth, by nature, and to this new world view, how that happens, it's going to be some really tumultuous thing. But at the same time, that new world, that new chapter is what you were created for. You were not created for the past however many years of your life. That's something that you were phoning in one way or another, or surviving through. Because for most of us, I feel this so much in everybody's energy. For most of us, it's almost this feeling of the development, your experience actively in the world has been to feel like you're just surviving it. And there is no sense of yourself beyond just surviving it and just trying to sort of get some sort of edge in survival. So that's all that you've known. This next chapter is for you. You were created for it. You were not created for that rat race. It never felt like anything other than, like again, they're saying not for you. That was not for you. It didn't feel like it was for you. It felt like a consolation prize on something, but not even particularly good, And so when we see this sacrifice and we see this call to laughter, there is a sacrifice that is being made, like writ large, in terms of, well, I mean, I hate to say it, I'm like looking at my guide and being like, I wouldn't put it that way. But there is this notion of like that everything that we are seeing right now is the uproar of the mother. It's the mother waking up and becoming conscious of where she has been, who has taken her for a ride, what was extorting her, what was misusing her, what they were doing to her children. Like her consciousness has ignited. Her consciousness is plugged in. Where there was a disconnect before, there is not a disconnect right now. And so she's reacting. That's this wild nature. And she is reacting on this King of Pentacles. And she is bringing this change. And so when we think about the sacrifice of that is the outcome of her rage, that's kind of difficult, because it's, the people who are paying the price right now are the war gods, victims, basically. But there's something here. Let's get a little bit more. We feel it. Our guys are like, you feel it. You feel all of the like upheaval. And so it's not going to take you off guard, and it's not going to, there's nothing here. Our guys are saying there's nothing here in terms of like, the kinds of things that you fear when you fear demolition are like financial ruin. And your guys are saying, no, don't think about that. That's not even a thing. That's not even on the map. You're going to be fine no matter what. You're for the Nine of you're for that Nine of Coins position. But what you have to do in the way of keeping your mind, the Angel of Dreams, like, being able to sort of decipher what you're seeing, sublimate some of what's going on into the bigger picture that's saying, this change is like has to happen. Yeah, Angel of Punishment. I kind of felt like that was there. Ooh, spirituality and the Angel of Flame. The war god is so ugly right now, and everybody willing to hold that energy is just almost like impossible to tolerate. But we're reminded that they're in a dream. So one of the first things that we're told about when we see these flames, when we see the fire come through and take the land, when we see everything get washed, and again, this is not making light of loss of life, loss of property, loss of entire, regions. That's not making light of that at all. What this is saying is you're in a dream, very, like our guides are saying, like the truth of the matter is when it comes to consciousness and it comes to the material experience, like of course you're in a illusion about what you are, who you are, and what the world you're in is. Of course that's the fact, because this is a finite experience and we are infinite beings, which means the finite experience is not the reality. The infinite experience is the reality. And so when we think about the dream that we're in and we think about the upheaval that we're looking at, one of the first things that we want to remember is that this is a dream that we have a lot of power. This is a dream where there's a lot of influence around us. And even though there's a battle, there's a worldview battle going on with this angel of punishment, and this notion of like this battle is going on over the spiritual truth, the spiritual reality, the spiritual reality, the worldview. That's it. And everything about this, like what we're seeing in the way of like it looks like punishment. It's not punishment. Let me see more with this punishment because I'm kind of getting lost on that just a little bit. Two things. Everyone holding war god energy right now, intolerable. All right. And so like it's punishment to be around them. But like beyond that, like there is this aspect of war, like pretty active war. And whether or not we are experiencing it ourselves, like individually, and our guys are saying it's okay to feel a little bit anxious, but they want me to kind of keep being calm, even though I'm looking at stuff that I'm like, no, I don't really want to look at this for, especially collectively. They're like, don't complain. Persevere and have faith. With the champion, we have a victory here. There is a victory here. And so like, are there punishing circumstances? Persevere. We're very close to being in a place of where our gods are in dominion. When your gods are in dominion, and it's hard to understand that they haven't been, but you can look around the world and say like, no, there's been like a couple of gods that have been really ripping things up in the worst possible way. There has not been, a distribution of power amongst gods. And so when we understand that when your gods are in power, your life is going to look very different. Our gods are moving into power, and whether or not you can grasp that, or you can just think about it as a worldview in a secular sense, like your worldview is becoming the dominant worldview. That's where you fit better. And so persevere, because the life that you've led has been punishment. And so this last couple of weeks, and it is the last couple of weeks, like your guys are saying, just keep the faith. No matter what you're looking at, you are walking through a fault line. You are not living in the shadow for the rest of your life. This is not the complete. This shadow exists right here in this line, this crack. We are moving through it. It feels like a dark forest, but that light, that tree line is what we're told to sort of look up at in terms of this perseverance and this faith. The championship here, and right, especially in terms of like take stock in the treasures of what you've earned. We are in this position because of your active participation in the world. There's no mistake about it. Like we are in the winning, like we are winning, we are turning that corner, that pivot is taking place. Yes, there is some battle at the heart of it. But we're at the very head of the, if the whole population is moving through this, we're at the very front line in terms of perspective and in terms of influence and in terms of basically this 9 of coins, where that positioning leads. So like, there's a part of me that, I'm hearing our guides, one of our guides is saying, it's good news for you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. but it is, there's a way in which it's good news for you. It's good news for what it means for you to relate and grow and create. It's good news for you in terms of partnerships and friendships. And it's good news for you in terms of the divine genius. It's good news for you in terms of all sorts of things. Like they're saying, like in an incoherent world, like you were never going to be okay. In the coherence that we're entering, you are the shining star. And that's not hierarchical. It's just sort of the way in which things are shaking out. And so this angel of punishment speaks to like how hard it's been, how hard it is really even right now. So I want to just look at that for a second, because this perseverance and this faith, what do we have to be mindful of in terms of this angel of punishment? anyone willing to hold the war god right now is holding a vengeance towards those who represent the new worldview. It's not a bad idea to just kind of like, you know, keep yourself out of arguments with people who are going to be like rabid with that energy. The fates, yeah, there is this is fate. You know, our guides are saying it, like it or not, when you look out over the chaos, when you look out over the upheaval, like this is a fated moment in time. And this treasure is like where we're ending up. And so with this mending going on, everything that you perceive as like a loss right now, everything that you perceive as kind of a devastation, and your guys are saying like, luckily you're not really perceiving things that way, but there is this mending that is going on because of all the devastation. Our guys are saying it's not like you aren't going to get hit. You already got hit. You already got hit. Your life was already, you had a target on you in one way or another, because anybody with like real magic in a world where the system of oppression spiritually is what it is, you're going to have a target. You're not allowed to disrupt the order, right? And your very being disrupts the order in one way or another. And so that has been a life of this that has been a life of punishment in one way or another. That's why it feels like a group of survivors that have survived and now have to figure out how to survive surviving. And so with that fates and that treasure island, like what is meant for you is worth this process. Persevere, have some sense of keeping your eye on the prize, because where we are being led, what is happening when we get past this fault line, when we're out, when the sun finally comes up, that's, our guides are saying that's what you are being prepared for. That's who you are. And that this is actually for you very specifically. This is a time of healing. This isn't really a time of action, and that's hard. And your guys are saying, and that's hard for you. That's hard for you. So I want to see what they want to tell me about. So this notion of punishment is part of it, though. Is your life was punishment. But now the punishment is coming for those who made your life punishment. And that's not a vengeance thing. It's just that if you were really comfortable being a bully in the old world, and you're going to have that power ripped out from you and your sense of power ripped out from you, that's going to be a miserable experience. Somebody like you, though, who has already had lots of episodes and experiences of having like the rug ripped out underneath you, and you know, you're not rooted in false power structures. If you're not rooted in false power structures, you will be untouched. And I'm seeing like a mark on you. Like there's some, and I see a mark like over your, like someone put a mark on you. What is that? It's just a symbol. They're saying like that those of us who are meant for that 9 of coins position, there's like a symbol that we have that says like this person is left alone. These energies can't harm this person. That doesn't mean that like you can't be like our guys are saying like be very careful with that. I'm like, okay, tell me. And they're saying it's not that you can't experience discomfort. It's not that you can't experience that you are in a conflict, that you are actively having to sort of like work with your strength in this situation, work with like the uncertainty, where, you know, all of that. So it's not like a perfect thing where, you know, not a hair on your head will be like, you know, hurt or whatever. Nothing is going to actually hurt you. Like, you know, things are going to be what they are in terms of testing grounds, but nothing is going to actually land in the way of an arrow. And in terms of taking you down, like you are protected. And so it's not punishment for you to experience this major change in the way that the world, again, it's happening so fast. Let me just take a deep breath. It's hard for me to stay calm when I see stuff like this. Like this is not my usual. It's happening pretty fast. And your guys are saying it is a fork in the road position. We are feeling like the anxiety of being in a fork in the road position. So what do our guides want us to do in terms of this walking through the forest? So the first thing that we want to kind of understand with fearless and conflict in the boar is that we don't have anything to be afraid of. Personally, unfortunately, you know, and our guys are saying there are rules about the way that you see things and the way, you know, virtues that are built around like how you know, observe things. What does that mean? I don't understand that. Let me just see where they're taking us. Let's see what we have here with fearless and confident. Yeah, forgiving. Forgiveness, you know, sublimating. So a lot of stuff is coming to light. And as things come to, yeah, forgiveness of rejection from a world that had no place for you. Forgiveness twice, and that's like impossible. And creativity on the bottom of the deck, and emotional release. So we really have to talk about forgiveness right now, because keeping yourself afloat and keeping yourself in perspective, and again, like I'm seeing the Queen of Swords, but she's not here, but I see her anyway. Keeping this perspective that you have a treasure trove that you're carrying with you through this passageway, that it is fated. I want to listen. I want to listen real good. What does that mean? This shadow experience, how can you channel your shadow self in creative activities with that creativity card on the bottom of the deck? What activities help you release up pent emotions? This technology of forgiveness is kind of essential, because I'm seeing somebody like speaking to you and saying like stupid things, you know what I mean? And you wanting to like literally like rip their head off. You're coming into a level of power within yourself that you're going to be tempted to use. You're going to be tempted to like wield. And the only way to properly wield that power is from a dispassionate place when it comes to vengeance. You can't hold power in any meaningful way with that 9 of coins. And you're going to first have to hold it in your own life before you're ever put in a position where you're holding it. First, you're going to have to properly hold power in your own life. You're going to have to take dominion over your own life. Your gods and your guides are going to have to see that you have gotten through the lesson and the series of lessons, and they're looking at me and pointing right to my face. I know. You know, where you have to like, they want to see that you can fully take care of yourself, that you have a system in place for fully taking care of yourself. And fully like moving through emotions and like offloading that, which would be like, you know, triggers for vengeance, because it's a purification process that they want us to be in during this passage, where you're releasing emotions associated with stories that no longer apply, releasing emotions associated with people in the past who have changed in one way or another so much that they're not even recognizable. We don't even know who they are anymore. We don't even know who we are anymore. Like part of what it means to like let go of the old worldview and the values of the old world system, and you know, all of that. I'm seeing everything fall actually. You know, part of what it means to do that is, you know, comfortably, is to be able to sort of hold space for, you know, people are going to be at their worst. Situations are going to be at their worst. People don't know what's going on. Like the shadows are being, I'm seeing exorcised, you know, our guys are saying like the exorcisms, you know, these shadows are going to be like screeching, you know, their last, what is that? People are going to be putting down their shadows. As they're putting down their shadows, there's no one picking up those shadows. When no one picks up those shadows, so this is like the energies, right? So the energy of supremacy, which, you know, in a society of status, everybody holds it in one way or another. It's how we figure out like who are we in this room, you know? So something like the energy of supremacy, when people put it down and no one's picking it up again, there's a lot of psychic free radicals that like are flying around. There's a lot of ways in which like it can be a little bit dangerous to have a vulnerability along the lines of unforgiveness. So even if you are your most spiritually powerful self, the time that we're in, the moment we're in, the transformation that we're going through, walking through this fault line, having to make our way through the dark forest, looking at that path, we do not want to be susceptible to running off of the path in a fury because we heard the voice of somebody who pissed us off like 6 years ago. And how dare they say that? That was stupid idiot. We do not want to get into the fight with that person's war god agony and their loss of power. This is not a time for having to be right. Because you can be right about something, but the person who you're talking to, who's carrying a rancid energy of supremacy, that energy of supremacy knows that its days are numbered and that it's getting exercised. And so you don't want to engage with that energy right now. You don't want to step into the fever, like panic pitch of somebody else's problem, putting this and like, you know, putting false power down, somebody's fears. You don't want to step into that. And so in order to manage what is going to feel like rejection, you know, in some ways, or even manage what has been rejection in your past, you know, where you look over the past and you see like all of this rejection because you didn't align, you confronted that old worldview energetically, whether you realize it or not. You know, you want to hold that unforgiveness, but this is not a time for that. There's such an important message here that says this emotional release creatively, you know, there's a creative way in which you want to like engage with this emotional release includes really sublimating things with forgiveness over and over and over and over again, because the power you're about to hold can get hijacked by vengeance. Is one of the few things that can hijack that power. Almost nothing else can hijack that power that you're going to be given. But if you like just happen to be holding some unforgiveness and that trigger is there, your guides are like, work that out now, get rid of that. Because this influx of power, it's going to misfire if that work hasn't been done. And so we've done forgiveness, we've talked about forgiveness, and now we're going to have to look at this a little bit closer. Times are changing, yeah. Death, Lullivers. So there's not much we can do except hold this perspective that what is change and what is new, and that trust in the divine, that trust in the path revealing itself to you, even if you're enclosed in darkness. The Five of Wands is going to be this fight around you with the structures that are around you, and that death and transformation is going to bring us into a place of maturity with this. That Nine of Cups says, your guides are like, can you please, for our sake, be the few people that see this change as a positive, because the change that is being brought in, not brought in, it's happening, and it's going to happen more profoundly. It's like you're stuck in this place. There's all this conflict and fighting around you. The structures are failing. This transformation is, oh man, I don't like looking at this stuff. This transformation is really powerful. Can I get some more on that? Let me see this a little bit closer. I mean, the main message that we're getting from our guides is this is great for you. It's going to look pretty horrible for everybody, but for your experience of this is going to be very good. But you're not going to be allowed to stay in your comfort zone. Nobody is. Everybody's getting moved out of their comfort zone. So how well acquainted you are with the divine, how well you have sort of worked through issues of like vengeance and resentment, how well you have forgiven the wounds of rejection, is going to sort of depend on how strong you feel outside of that comfort zone. And a lot of you have been doing the work, but this is getting, you might have, yeah, you guys are saying there are energies that have been challenging you just to get your muscles, just so some of those muscles are where they need to be. Yeah. There's a lot of change in terms of the way that we relate. Yeah, that's, and the allowing. So what does it mean to allow for a change here? With the Hanged Man, being like this position of, I'm stuck where I'm stuck, I am who I am, I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with, the world is doing what it's doing, and there's a feeling of powerlessness with that sort of like line of reasoning with this Moon card. And so one of the first things our guys want to say is this feeling is just, again, this perseverance and faith and this release emotionally. They want us to know we're walking through this passage. There's not exciting things to do, particularly like, it's not a time where you're going to look around at your life and say like, this is what satisfaction feels like. This is a time where you're going to be wanting to get somewhere and go somewhere and have a different experience, but not being able to. And so to have the right kind of feelings about that, to not capsize as a result of that uncertainty, is to get comfortable. And our guides are saying think about getting on the train or getting on the plane. Now it's a long ride. Now you're sitting on a long ride. What are you going to do? That's the Hanged Man. That's even the feeling that we have a little bit. It's like, flying. I don't want to do this. But this is what our guides are saying. It's like, for you to get comfortable here they're saying you could be uncomfortable. You could be pitching a fit about this. You could be getting hysterical about this. Like, it's understandable. It certainly looks like this is not ideal. But they're saying, why don't we not do that though? Because this is where they don't want to indulge it. They're actually getting like a little bit like, they're taking off their kid gloves a little bit. Taking off their kid gloves a little bit to say like, the feats of strength that are going into the protection that we are bringing to you right now, the feats of strength that are going into the cleansing and the clearing of your systems right now, the feats of strength that are going into like making the transition from the old gods into the new gods, and in terms of your like leadership positions and channeling, like, you know, what you're creating. It's so interesting that I'm seeing like all of this, everyone. I wonder what's going to be the new world. Like I'm still like, every time I look at that picture of the new world, I know it's a creative economy. And so I know that the creative economy as it functions best is going to be like on the axis of really proper channeling of the divine genius. And that's what we're all learning. And so using your magic is going to be that channeling of the divine genius. How that expresses, whether it's art or it's magic, probably both for this group, art and magic. Oh man, that's like, it's actually really beautiful. Okay, so that's good news. I'm like, finally, I'm like, oh yeah, like let's look at that. There is a place for you that really values the contributions that you have to bring in. And so to feel like you're stuck and that there's no way to move forward, and how are you going to be properly valued, and like what is that even going to mean? Your guys are saying don't do that. Just don't do it. Just help them, help you, help us, help the whole, by sitting comfortably in the uncertainty and saying there's faith, there's perseverance. Yes, there are, like, this is the 5 of Wands. That's competition, that's fighting. With this Hierophant, you know, worldviews where people are going to be coming at you with, like, in the absence of a crumbling worldview that used to hold things somewhat coherent. It was an incoherence, but it was at least better than like what we're going into by way of instability. There are going to be people around you screaming their worldviews and questioning your worth and their worth and where's our worth and what's worth. And especially when it comes to I want to get this, you know, I want to look at this because this is telling us that competition, with the worldviews and assets are at stake. So we want to look a little closer. I don't know which one. Here. Okay. What do we have to worry about with that? Because that's possessions, you know, finance. So the competitive field, the structure's failing, and our finances. Yeah, we want to look at that. We want to look at that. What do we need to know? Allow the change. These cycles have to take place. It's part of the storms that we're going to see. Yeah, the leadership. I knew that was there. Yeah, you're going to be placed in, you're going to be okay. You have everything that you need to be placed properly. It takes a certain temperament to be able to create into the chaos of the new economy. And that's about a third of the way there, you know, in community, in terms of what it means for you to, yeah, it's going to take a certain temperament, and it's going to take an alchemy in terms of community, and power. Yeah. So when it comes to this gateway, this allowing, this transformation, this is for you again. Around you, everything is going to be looking absolutely horrific in terms of stability, especially when it comes to trying to like have a regular like. Let me get this perfect because this is kind of serious. We want to get this right. You're going to be divinely inspired. And that divine inspiration is exactly what it means to look up through that break in the trees and move forward. That divine inspiration that's coming in is related to leadership here. It's related to your position in community with a level of power. Now, what does it mean for you? Because I want to explain this sort of very particularly. The tower is falling. All of the old structures are collapsing. In the absence of those structures, there's competition of worldviews, competition of who should be right, who should be wrong, who's at fault, who's right. Think about like a really dysfunctional family where everybody is like screaming at each other, and like, you know, the fight gets so bad that they start breaking furniture. If that is the like fever pitch of energy that like goes alongside all of these structures kind of failing in the way that they do, you become a certain kind of asset. You're an asset to the world already, but your perspective, your energy becomes a certain kind of an asset. And so you do not have to personally worry about your positioning right now. In a way, when you look at it and you say, like, I can see it, and it says, I can see you, there's this, like, you don't want to be prosperity gospel crazy, because that I always want to be very, very careful not to, like, ever adopt those ways of encountering spirituality where we expect spirituality to, like, show up for us, without our participation, or we expect that spirituality will deliver a prosperity in exchange for our obedience. Like, none of that is true. But you are an asset in this moment more than you can ever possibly imagine, and everyone around you, in terms of, like, what they're feeling and the center of gravity that you end up holding. It's literally like what keeps the house from blowing away. That's an odd vision, but with that death card and that flow, like, you flowing with the change, in some ways that becomes a natural leadership. You being at peace with the process of transformation, and that in and of itself becomes a type of leadership. That's kind of what you're being told to do. Because with the Lovers here, again, outside of your comfort zone, in a growth space, because you want to connect, you want to be in relationship to another, you want to build a new kind of life, there are going to be these limitations, and there is going to be this, with this Capricorn energy, this is what's kind of falling, and in its place is the type of relating. We related to each other in status and structure for a really long time. We related to each other in positioning and how well you worked with that status and that structure. With that status and that structure going, giving way to a new type of structure and a new way of creating stability, this is going to be through relating. And so that Nine of Cups is this creativity and this Nine of Cups and Nine of Pentacles. We are talking about a situation where you are individually very satisfied in what you're able to bring into community based on, like, this type of relating that you have to offer. Your guys are saying you have no idea how valuable you are. You have no idea how protected you are. You have no idea how cloistered you've been your whole life for this repositioning. You have been cloistered for the purpose of this repositioning in one way or another. You don't even, so this Nine of Cups being about a type of emotional fulfillment, even a level of excess emotionally in terms of, like, thriving. And that Nine of Coins is a position, and it's a level of wealth too. That is really at odds with the Angel of Flame, with the shadow, with the fault line, with the experience of this Five of Wands and this Hierophant, these structures. A pillar of opposition just by being at peace. And so protecting that peace, understanding that piece is a weapon, and that piece is also a beacon in, like, an otherwise stormy sea. Okay. This is an interesting message we got. And, when I sat down and, like, our guides were busy, I was like, what do you mean our guides are busy? I sat down and, my ancestors that I'm working with right now, they're not the normal ones that I'm with. And they were like, yeah, all of our guides, the ones that we're used to working with, there's a transition, there's a transferring of power, from one group to the next. And they're also, like, hard at work doing something right this minute. And so let's see what does that mean? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Yeah. Gateway. We're there. We're really there. Stepping into your power. Crown chakra is, again, connecting with your psychic abilities. And the third, crown chakra, third eye. We are talking about looking up and seeing that break in the trees. That finding your path by looking up and seeing that breaking in the trees is the same thing as you need your intuition right now more than anything else in the world. Everybody can point and laugh and say, oh, you and your woohoo. Like, quite frankly, the world that we're going into in terms of, like, deep fakes and trickery, if your intuition is not absolutely dialed up, the level of loss that you will be, there's no words. So all of the work that you've been doing on your intuition, all of the like, refining, quite frankly, that you've been doing and that you will continue to do, this is what establishes you in power in this position. This is what gives you, your guys are saying, this is what gives you everything in a certain kind of way. Because your intuition isn't just about getting hunches. Your intuition is also about picking up the inspiration. It's the antenna is a live wire. So you're getting the inspiration, you're getting the guidance. It's not just about the hunch that saves you. Although the hunch that saves you, again, that's what resonates and what doesn't resonate. You know, what is good for you, what is not good for you. This is going to be at a felt level, most important. And so part of what consciousness and the earth with passion, you know, part of what it means for you to relate in a new way to, and you're good saying everything. With this crown chakra, this third eye chakra, we are prioritizing, we are elevating this need to constantly be working with our intuition, constantly be working with our crown chakra, our third eye chakra, our senses, creating the type of vessels of the container for our faith that can hold spiritual inspiration. Because in one way or another, that's what you were created for. And so what it means for you to step into that space and create from that space and communicate from that space, again, it's going to look different for everybody. It's a channeling of inspiration into matter. And so how that is for you, like the language that you speak in that way, you know, this shift in consciousness, and it is a pretty important shift in consciousness that we are stepping into, is our guide saying, like, this is where your priorities are. This is where the value is. This is where your work and your time is well spent. It's not really a hobby. Not with what we're looking at in terms of the way in which we're all connected and the level of like passion that we are, like, again, our guides are saying, like, it's a war. Like, don't be fooled. You know, it's not the apocalyptic fan fiction of the Christians, but it is most certainly when an empire falls and it is replaced by a new worldview that is at the most basic level, you know, a changing of the gods. And so this consciousness that we're coming into, where the priorities and the values are not placed in how many toys you can accumulate, but how well can you work your way through that dark forest. This is the repositioning, and this is the change, and this is also the shift in power that is happening right now. So it used to be that those who held power were those who had the most might. Now it's going to be those who hold power are those that can see the most light, you know, in that dark space. And so that's kind of where I think our guides want to lead us. You know, this is, our guys are saying we knew this was going to happen. It's not like it's news that we're going to have this major like shift in worldviews, that we're going to have this major shift in the way that the map is positioned, because we see it everywhere and we know that it's there. So that's not news, but that it's happening quicker than I thought, or that we thought, or that, you know, just generally it's just happening so quickly. You guys are saying good news, bad news. You know, good news that's happening quickly, bad news that's happening quickly. But none of this is bad news for you, because you've already prioritized your intuition. You've already prioritized in one way or another the divine feminine aspect of God. And I really want to be clear about that not being a gendered position, because the divine feminine aspect of God, it's aspected, you know what I mean? And so how you relate to it in this moment of time, if you are a spiritual person, you are moving into orbit and in harmony and resonance with what it means to appreciate that energy in one way or another, or to use it, or not use, but like to hold that energy and to let that energy move through you. It's divine feminine magic, which is very different than masculine magic. It just operates on a completely different axis in a completely different way. And so, you know, in one way or another, you are positioned perfectly for the changes that we're moving into. But this is a struggle right now, and at the moment it's a struggle inside yourself, but you're also, your guys are saying, like, it feels like a struggle to you, but you are so encased, you are so handled, you are so elevated from a spiritual perspective that it doesn't feel that bad. You know, like, oddly enough, like, you know, there's a way in which this transformation for you is bone crushing in a sense, but also like it feels like oddly like safe, good, and fine. Like, I wish I can get that better. But it's hard for me to. Okay. With the love, forget the distance. Forgiveness is coming up as being like, you have to be vigilant about this. You cannot be seduced into a position of misuse of power because of unforgiven things. And I am being shown like explosions. So let's take a look at that. What is that explosion? Tempers like a little bit. Like, there's this aspect of your guys are like, try to control. Oh, right. So our guys are being like, listen, right now they have lost, and because they have lost, the best that they can do in this last hour, and I'm being shown just a couple of weeks Yeah, we're not really talking about like a long haul. We're talking about from now until like probably the end of, maybe the end of the year, but maybe like before. Well, they're saying like, it doesn't matter, it's going to be so action packed. But basically what we're looking at here in terms of, don't get baited. Do not take the bait. Do not be in position for the bait. They're like, put your thinking cap on when you're talking to an energy that is clearly in the losing camp, that is baiting you into a fight so that they can take that last bite, so that they can sort of interfere with your reception of your powers. So be very careful about your guys are saying you need to forgive, and we've talked about this before, but there is something to be said for like maybe even going in, like, all right, so our guys are like, let's just put it this way. Let me listen to them. You know what it is to be baited. Whether you're talking to somebody who knows that they are, whether you're talking to somebody who's doing it intentionally or somebody who's doing it, whatever the intention might be, you know what it is when someone says something offensive or says something crappy and they want to initiate some kind of a reaction from you. It is so important for you right now to not give your power over to some explosion of grief around like somebody baited you into a fight. And yeah, that's kind of like our message is like very much like don't do it. When you are sitting there and that person is saying those things and you feel the fire rise up in you and you feel that storm cloud, descending, they want you to take a couple of deep breaths and say, I know what this moment is. I'm not going to take the bait. I don't care how delicious this argument might be. Like, I'm just going to not shove it. Talk to your guides, call to your guides, say, yeah, when all seems ended, when you guys are kind of showing me you in this position, like the truth comes softly, like it's the opposite of that. Like this is the storm, as it kicks up, when that moment of not being able to, love forgives the distance, but when it all seems ended, when you are like, I can't forgive you, this distance cannot be traveled, what you're saying to me makes me want to set my hair on fire and then make, or whatever, like that rage, you know what I mean? And so your guys are saying that this truth, make sure that when you bring the truth in any way, you're not going to participate in the war god's energy, because again, it's rancid and it's more horrible than it's ever been before, and you just don't want to step into that. It is this fault line. It's not forever. We're talking about months, not a long time, for you to keep your cool. Normally you want to express your anger. You want to have a good relationship with your anger. We talked about having to resolve our shadow in terms of change, anger, death, all being related. That does have to happen, but let the anger be something that you're doing in a spiritual way, and controlled by you. You're expressing the anger spiritually, because the anger needs to be expressed spiritually. What are you going to do? You're going to bring that wrath to somebody who is literally hallucinating on the acid of their own loss of power. Forget the person who's holding that rancid energy. Take that anger into a spiritual place. Deposit that anger spiritually. Sit down and pray with your guides and say, I call my ascended ancestors. I call my ascended guides. I call the, energies of revelation. I call the energies of assistance here to this place, to this time, for this moment, to dissolve this fuse. That's how you want to operate around that anger right now, because again, there's landmines being planted everywhere that all they're there to do. They cannot defeat you. They cannot usurp your future. They cannot change the changing of the worldview. That changing of the worldview, that's going to take time. But for you, your guys are saying it's so important. It's so important that you hear us when we say this. Do not take any bait right now. They're saying it's not even a couple of months. It's more like a couple of weeks. The card's wanting to jump. I'm feeling angry. I don't know what the situation is yet, but I'm sure that it exists. All right, here we go. Yep. A Uranus bringing change. Oh, and misinformation. Okay. So your time and your energy is to be spent working on your craft, spiritual stuff, with all of these cards here in terms of the third eye chakra, the crown chakra, and consciousness. You are to be removing your energy from the fight. You don't need to fight. You've already won. You're being handled. You're being handed over into a position that is you've been created for in one way or another. People coming at you here with, you know, an unusual example, different way of looking at unexpected change in terms of information and communicating, fluctuations. This notion of I have to be right, or I have to be experienced as being right. So there's going to be such upheaval around the right and the wrong position on any given thing, and people, again, they're fighting. They're fighting for their positions right now in ways that you can't understand. So when you look at somebody who comes at you with some kind of a bait, you know, like your guides are saying, first of all, your job is not to fight right now. You don't have to fight right now. Any battle that you have to do in terms of using magic with anger, you do spiritually because you're learning how to hold the power in that way, and your guides are with you holding your hand in it. But ultimately, you're not getting into the battlefield, and you're certainly not going to convince anybody that they're wrong when they're wrong. And you're not going to convince anybody that you're right when you're right. And so do not bother. Don't even bother. Because what's happening right now is these old systems, these old belief systems are failing, and they're failing in people's lives, and the anointing is being removed from them very purposefully. People holding destructive beliefs right now, the mother is wide awake. She's not allowing the use of her power for things that are not serving the whole, that are not part of the health of the whole. And so people who were formerly able to use the anointing by any means of any technology of faith, using the technology of faith that, you know, like the placebo pill, just the belief equals the result. You know, that was the mother's natural, like unconscious, automatic nervous system, basically, that there was this technology in place and there was this unconscious nervous system, you know, at work, you know, making sure that the heart beat at the right time. It all sort of worked as a system should. But that cancer that came in, like, it went undetected for a very long time. And so now she is awake. And she's pulling her power back from people who used to use the technology in erroneous ways. That's going to leave people who are fighting for their positions with their lives. And you do not want to get involved in that. And so and the way that you don't get involved in that is you work on your craft. You work on your position in a way that has nothing to do with winning any argument. You work on your position in a way that is, how can I take my expression and my natural vantage point and the observational view that I have and turn it into a type of art that I can then release, you know, and somehow be in that leadership position with my perspective that is going to be very uniquely resonant. How are people going to be successful? They are going to resonate. How are you going to resonate? You are going to have your intuition in place. What does it mean to have your intuition in place? It's connected to your guides. What does it mean to be connected to your guides? To be given the divine genius. What does it mean to have the divine genius? It means to be given power. What does it mean to hold power? It's going to be a felt experience of you being you. That's going to be wealth. And so that's sort of like, that's what your guides want you to invest in. That's what they want you to pay attention to. I almost got my grandfather on my mom's side is here, not my normal grandpa that I work with, and he put his hand on my shoulder, like, yeah, like, you know, there's no more room for hissy fit complaints. Like, you know, there's no more room for, you know, like petting, like I'm seeing someone like hold the cat and pet its little head, like petting like the head of like your anger and your resentment, like, so mean and shitty, that person. You know what I mean? Like, how can they be so ugly? Oh, how can they be that way? You know, like, there's no more room for that. That leaving you very vulnerable to an explosion of like being baited into a fight by somebody who there's unforgiveness. Just don't do it. It's unnecessary. They're fighting for their life with those opinions. And those opinions don't have to be coherent. They're very patently incoherent, but you're not going to get anywhere with people holding them. And so what they want from you in terms of like your communication, you want to communicate without the expectation that somebody is going to necessarily see you the way that you want to be seen. And your guys are saying, you know, in terms of exposure and what it means to create into this position, into this place and the exposure, again, it comes back to resonance. And we are still like, and it's, yeah, your guys are saying like, look at that landscape. Yeah, no, I want to see it. I want to see that landscape. What are we talking about? You guys are pointing to that thing that was just came through about like power and the divine genius. It's all about resonance. People are going to gravitate toward like the real, toward, you know, and so it's like they're saying your center of gravity is a form of sovereignty and authority. And yeah, power is going to go to those who can hold it. It's going to create a type of gravity. Your success is in relationship to that. Is it here right now? No. We're not in that atmosphere yet. We're getting prepared for that atmosphere. That atmosphere, we're there a little bit. And again, you guys are saying, if you don't know yourself, if you're not in relationship with yourself, if you're not in relationship with the divine, that's a non-real. That's going to come across as not real. Anything that's fake and not real right now, in a time when we can't trust anything, is going to be like disqualified, just period. And so we went from a world where dishonest harmony was the way of operating, and we're entering into a world where that's just going to destroy anyone who tries to operate in it. So if you've had a life where you can't be compliant, you know, with dishonest harmony, and you really just want things to be real, congratulations, that's where we're going. That's the only way that people are going to be able to sort of, proceed almost. So be bold and make the first move. Let's see what that means. Show the world the real you. Yeah, that's right. That's kind of, you guys are saying like, this is where we're getting ready for this. It's going to be easier for you to do that, too. Okay, so expect powerful change. I'm telling you, this is coming really quickly. And I was hoping, I always look at things and I want them to take a really long time. You know, I like my comfort zone is like, you know, that we sort of meander wherever we're going at all times. But this is not that. So what it means for you to enter into a level of confidence, again, that's what that reading last week on confidence is really important. You know, confidence comes from a relationship with the divine. Working on your confidence right now, working on your intuition right now, working on your relationship with the divine right now, 100% where that effort needs to be. Where we have priorities, that's the priority. You knowing yourself and showing yourself as you know yourself, that like way in which you, like, that's going to transfer into a type of energetic signature where you're portraying, like, and again, this is where perfection has to go the way of the garbage dump. A perfected person is no longer of any interest. Fake is quite literally too dangerous. Uncanny valley dangerous to be fake right now because of all of the ways in which deep fake, misinformation, types of technology that make it very hard to see like where the source of something is. Like, you know, there's so much there about like the era of instability. That's what our guides call it. It's time to take action. You know, your life is probably, your guys are saying like a life that, your life has prepared you for this. And taking action, and your guys are saying taking action is, again, you're going to take action by not taking the bait and instead working on your spiritual craft. If you get angry, that's an alchemical property that you're supposed to learn how to use properly. And so you just, whenever you have storms come in emotionally, those are all alchemical things that you're like, oh, I have to learn how to work with this and make it magic. You're not working with it in order to be persuasive with your neighbor who's spouting nonsense. Like, again, this is like a diligent sort of like thinking about things and working through things. Showing the world the real you this is your call. In one way or another, you're being called to this, and it's time to take action. It says like, we're close. We're close. And again, our guys are like, let me see if I can like hear what they mean by that. Things are speeding up, but they're very gentle with you. Like, you don't have to be afraid about this. Like, this is not anything to fear. They're proud of you. You know that? They're really proud of you. There's this way in which they were so scared for you for so long. This is the group of guides that is, like, you know, they're supporting, you know what I mean? They're a supportive group of guides. They're not the ones that have sort of like been, well, they've been with us this entire time. So it's hard for me to sort of channel them properly, but they're basically saying that, like, if you knew what they know about who you were, what you're meant for, and how you have been conditioned and created for the experience of yourself that is on the other side of that mountain, you would know that you were loved. You would know that you were held in the highest possible esteem. You would know that not only are you loved, you're adored. You would know that not only are you adored, but that you have there's some divine aspect to like who you are and what you're created for. And so I want to leave it mostly there. I'm going to get like just a few more cards to sort of send us off with, because expect powerful change. Yes. When this year is going to be full of powerful change. The next couple of years are going to be completely bizarre. I can feel it, and you're fine, but it's probably going to look like absolute chaos all around you. And the chaos that you're in, your guides are like, I want you to just flow through that. Yeah. Weed out the negative thoughts. Your headspace should be a garden of beautiful thoughts surrounding you in total awesomeness. So focus on watering and nurturing the thought seeds of positivity and self-love. Let these grow deep roots in your mental home and blossom into something wonderful inside of you. As for those pesky negative thoughts, treat those as toxic weeds and rip those bad boys out at the roots. Keep your mental home a sanctuary and safe place for yourself. That's really it. That's it. That's how, that's this message. If we needed to do it in just one card, that would be what it is. And, this notion of it's okay to be done. It's okay to be done. Done dealing with situations that rob you of peace. Done dealing with people who don't love you the way you need to be loved. Done with all the clowns of the world that drain the life and happiness out of your soul and try to tear you down. Be courageous enough to know that when to say bye-bye and move on from anything that dims the light inside of you. Don't take the debate. Don't take the bait. It is okay to let someone just be wrong. It's take that moment and see what you can do with the energy later, because I honestly am seeing somebody just taunt you a little bit, just give you a little bit of taunt. And you're like, I'm going to take the power that is within me and it's going to land on your head. Don't do that. Just be done. Be like, I'm done with this conversation. I'm done with this line of thought. I'm done with the way that you're, I do not want to hear this at all. I'm not participating. Whatever that means, it's okay to have your answer to somebody else's, fighting for their life with their opinion. Be very simply, I am done with this conversation. Be present. In every single moment, opportunity dances with those already on the dance floor. So don't ever get caught on the sidelines. A missed opportunity might mean that some random window licker dances away with your golden goose. Now, this card is less about anybody dancing, no one's dancing away with your fate. But when it comes to being done with a person or a situation, this counts for ruminating too. When we're ruminating about how someone did that and they did this and how dare they and who got away with it and why did it happen that way, and you know what? When we're doing that in our head, we're not present. Something very useful to understand about life and death cycles, about the energies that we interface with, is that when we are always looking back, we are always interacting with energies of death. We're always we are staying with the past. That means we are staying with the underworld, what has already passed away. That means we're not living into the future. We're not even taking in living energies. If you want to know what it is to be caught, in the underworld, what it is to not be able to cross over, it's when you can't see anything other than the losses of what has already passed away, and that you spend time with those things that have already passed away, and that you live with those things that have already passed away, and that you are eating and consuming, and they're eating and consuming of what has already gone. That means underworld, hanging out in the underworld. So what it means to leave that and enter into a space of light and life and living is to very actively be done with what's done and be present with what's in front of you. Even if it's easier to look back, because when you look in front of you, you're like, why are we in a dark forest? I don't see the path. Okay, if I look up, I can see it, but clearly, so this is sort of where Spirit is saying, understand the alchemical mechanisms of what it means to be ruminating on stuff from the past, and don't do that. This is such an important thing of right along the lines of forgiveness is also be present and be forward facing, because forward facing in the present means that you're going to have to work with the chemistry of the present in order to tolerate it. And so if you find yourself in the present moment and you also find yourself like super frustrated, you know, like with like the past, yeah, you guys are saying, you know, there's a law here. Hold on, I just got like hit with barrels of information that weren't part of the message. So let me just see why that even got through. What? Oh, right. So in the present moment, if you're tempted to look into the past because there's not enough in that present moment, your guides want you to sort of think about your magic and what it means for your magic to bloom, for you to be in the present moment and say, what can I bring into this present moment to make it alive for me? That might be as simple as calling on your ascended guides to make themselves known and make themselves felt by you, and asking them to inspire you, asking them to give you something to think about other than the past. If you have a habit of thinking of the past, if you have a habit of defending yourself in your mind, like asking them to bring in different ideas, different thoughts, different positions, different, let me see this differently is another way that you can phrase it. Some of you have to get used to what it means to sit and not be driven by like some force of like, you know, tyranny of the urgent or tyranny of productivity. Some of you have to be in the present moment in a way that allows you to receive. And so there can be moments of discomfort with like something like meditating, but you're encouraged to keep on putting into the present moment aspects of what is alive or living and future and present for you, and really just let the past be the past. That's good advice overall, but right now it's especially important. So I think we're going to leave it there. It was really good to sit down with all of you and sit down with the energies of this isn't our usual group, but it's definitely part of it's like a portion. So it's like the ones that are around us, but it's like, instead of like the whole group, it's like a few of them. And apparently our guides are working on something. So that's cool. I'm excited about it. So sending you all lots of love, and I'll see you again next week.